It's a busy night at the strip club. Meanwhile, the news talks about 5 victims that they're searching for in the area, and Alma Jean is listening to it while Clyde shops around. Clyde says that it's all nonsense, and he thinks that the missing kids are going on a drug-fueled rampage somewhere. Soon, the sheriff arrives, and he asks her to get a case of batteries since they're going to be searching for the missing kids all night. When the sheriff sees the supplies that Clyde is buying, he asks what he's got going on, and Clyde assures him that he's just got a special project going on in the barn. While Clyde waits for Alma to bring him a box, the sheriff starts gabbing about a wonderful trip he had down to the strip club back in the day. After Alma gets back with his box, Clyde packs up and hobbles out of the store on his cane. At home, Clyde comes inside to find Starlene on the couch watching the TV while she paints her nails. After Starlene gets mouthy with him, Clyde reminds her that she should show him some respect. When she throws Clyde's mother under the bus, Clyde lashes out, and he reminds her that she should respect the dead. Clyde tries to apologize, but Starlene stops out. Meanwhile, the sheriff gets a young woman home, and he has her give him the goods right in front of his sick wife, Jody, in the corner. The girl gets nasty with him, but after the wife starts whispering hints, the girl can't take it. Jody says that she gets mad when the other girls don't please him right, but the sheriff tries to remind her that not all girls will be as good to him as she was. Across town, Starlene pulls up at Archie's house, and she asks for his brother. After seeing some of the sick things that Archie has been up to, she asks him if he's kept their little secret. Then, Starlene goes inside to find Griffin, and she wants to know how much longer she has to deal with Clyde. Griffin tells her that she has to figure out where Clyde keeps his stash in the barn, and the two of them get real personal. Suddenly, Punch shows up and messes up the vibe. Griffin throws out the idea of sharing her with Punch, but Starlene has had enough of this. The only thing that convinces her to stay is a little bag of white powder that Griffin pulls out. It's not enough to convince her to share the goods, though. Later, Starlene goes to the strip club to get ready for work, and Griffin explains to Punch why he's so intrigued with Starlene. It's not even her that he's fascinated by. He's more intrigued by Clyde and his family's money. After hearing this, Punch tries to come up with all sorts of ideas for a quicker way to find the money, but Griffin assures him that his plan is the smartest option that they have. Punch tells him that Starlene isn't delivering results quick enough, and he tells him that he'll handle things. Back at Clyde's barn, he puts on his mask and he goes to pet his dogs. Then, he's attacked by a man with a pitchfork, but Clyde manages to take him down. Afterwards, Clyde heads to another part of the barn, and he starts talking to the girls that he has locked up in cages. He makes it clear that he can't trust any of them now that their friend tried to escape, and he shocks one of the girls with his electric prod. Later, Clyde goes inside to clean up, and the rest of the town seems to be searching for the missing girls in the woods. Soon, Starlene gets to work, and Griffin shows up with Punch and Archie to enjoy the show. When Starlene comes over, Griffin buys Punch a dance, and he tells Starlene that Punch has a great idea as to how to get her away from Clyde, once and for all. Across town, the sheriff wakes up from a deep sleep and takes his weapon out of the side table. He stands up to face his wife, and he pretends to fire. In the morning, he makes breakfast, and he wheels Jody into the living room for the day. He feeds her her eggs, and he checks in on how she's feeling. He makes sure that she'll be okay for the day while he's at work, and she mentions that she knows that he had his nightmares again the night before. She assures him that she doesn't blame him for anything, and they remind each other that they love one another. At Clyde's house, he gets woken up by Starlene giving him a good morning kiss, and he wonders what's going on. Once he realizes what's going on, he checks in to make sure that she's okay after the day before. She assures him that she's just tired, but then she moves on to tell him that she's tired of fighting with him. She puts on her best lingerie, and she tells him that she'll do better to respect him and to be a better wife. Clyde starts to get close and personal with her, but she tells him that she needs a nap before anything. He assures her that he's got some work to do in the barn anyways, and he leaves her there. Meanwhile, The sheriff responds to a call in the woods, and he deals with the FBI as they question whether or not he can handle a criminal profile like this one. The FBI mentions that the only clues that they have is one set of prints, a tow truck was involved, and 2 big dogs were at the scene as well. After hearing this list of clues, the sheriff seems to have an idea of who he needs to pay a visit to. Back at Clyde's barn, the girls are trying to come up with a plan, but they know that they're too weak and tired to get anywhere. Christina hopes that Clyde finishes them soon, but Amy thinks that they can still hold on to hope. Christina swears that this wouldn't have happened if they didn't have AIDS, and she makes it clear that faith and hope won't change their circumstances. Just then, Clyde shows up, and Amy tries to plead for help for their one friend who doesn't look too hot. Clyde gets the other woman out of her cage, and he puts an end to her quickly. As Clyde carries the woman out of the way, he points out that the reason he did this was because their group went around to schools to tell kids that having AIDS was okay. While he gets rid of the body, Clyde gives the girls a little history on himself, and he points out why his life is so hard. Clyde tells the girls that he could do this the quick and easy way, but he doesn't want to explain the noise to Starlene. He decides to go with the shock stick, and he handles both of them. Meanwhile, Griffin and his crew are getting ready in their car, and Punch seems too excited to hold the gun. Punch and Griffin get ready to hold Starlene hostage, and they leave Archie some magazines and snacks for while they're gone. They head inside to interrogate Clyde, and they take Starlene hostage. They all head to the barn to have Clyde give them the money. Once inside, Clyde points out that the dogs are here to protect what he's got hidden, and he tosses them a bag from a secret stash. Punch finds that the bag is empty, and Clyde pulls out a weapon. Clyde manages to take out Punch and Griffin in a matter of seconds, and Starlene can't believe what he's just done. Then, we see that Clyde actually knew that Starlene had been seeing Griffin, but he plays along for a moment before knocking her out. When Starlene comes to, Clyde makes it known that he knew about how she'd been double-crossing him, and he clears the air by telling her that there's no secret money after all. He tells her that she's finally going to be the wife that he always wanted her to be, and he leaves her hanging there for a moment. When he comes back, he's holding one of his dogs, and he teases Starlene a bit. He promises her that he's going to enjoy every bit of this, and she tries to plead with him to have mercy. She tells him that he can do whatever he wants with her, and he assures her that he's going to do just that. He admits that her cheating on him and stripping at the club has been an embarrassment for him. Then, he points out that every single rumor about him is just a made-up story by the town. Back outside, Archie finishes up his snacks, and he starts getting impatient. Clyde promises to give Starlene something special, and he sets his dog loose while he pleases himself. The dog gets after Starlene, and Clyde couldn't feel better than he does right now. Back on the road, the sheriff comes to a stop in a car parked and abandoned, and he gets out to investigate. Back at the barn, Archie wanders in and finds that Clyde is to blame for losing his Starlene. Clyde pulls out his weapon, but he soon realizes that Starlene was actually Archie's only friend. When Archie realizes what Clyde has done to his Starlene, he attacks him, and the shot can be heard at the house where the sheriff just pulled up. Archie grabs hold of Clyde, and he seemingly squeezes him to death before the sheriff makes it there. When the sheriff looks around, he can't believe the gruesome scene that he's found, and he handles the dog that got Starlene. Later, the sheriff goes home to Jody, and he confesses to her that nothing is right outside of their home. He feels guilty for not helping anyone sooner, and Jody tries to tell him that everything will be okay. The sheriff feels like he destroyed their pure love with his infidelity as well, but Jody assures him that she can still love him if she'll just let him. The sheriff then removes the air tube from her throat, and he uses her. In the end, neither of them make it out alive.